Hey Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Capnclyde MTG, and we're here to talk about ban and restricted announcements. So before we get started, remember like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, comments down below, feed the YouTube algorithm which promote the channel. Appreciate all the help. So let's just dive right in. Can we save standard? Well, from the looks of it here, as of January 25th, we can. Alron's Epiphany, Divide by Zero. Well, that's a special looking one. And Faceless Haven have all been banned in Standard. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means the Dragon Take Turns decks is going to be dead. Thank God, because that thing was awful. It also played on Divide by Zero. A lot of decks did to play out of the sideboard. Thank God this thing has been has been banned because this is just too much. So great bans for Standard. I really stand behind them. Next, we have Legacy. Ragavan, the Nimble Pilfer. For those of you who can't see that, is this little fellow here. He's been banned. He is way overpowered. Has been for a long time. Surprised he's still playable in Modern. But yes, he is broken to beat all, and he is the go-to card for any deck that can squeeze a mountain into it. So this guy needed banned for sure. So on historic, Memory Lapse has went from uh, suspended to banned. This card was always too good of a counterspell, a blue and colorless. Needed to get rid of it, had to go. Now, next we have Teferi Time Raveler here. This is the original art. Let me scroll down a little bit. This is the original art of Teferi right here. Has been rebalanced and unbanned in historic. So what does that mean? Well, if you go down, you scroll down to the bottom of it, it'll tell you about why Alrund's Epiphany was banned, which anything that says take an extra turn should never be printed. We'll sum that up for you in the short ones. The ability to divide by zero to cover for a variety of angle of attacks. For example, you can not only pick up permanents, you can pick up spells when they're cast. You actually get to time walk for 3 with this on turn 3. If your opponent plays something, you divide by zero, put it back in their hand, get a card out of your sideboard. This thing was just, I don't know why this is even an uncommon. Even at rare, it would be too good. So, when using things like Leer here or Hullbreaker Horror, divide by zero is amazingly busted, so that's why it got banned. Faithless Haven, honestly, is just really um, represents a lot of power for the monocolor decks that it says here for aggro. Um, just in general, this card is way too good for the format. There are so many man lands right now that this is redonkulous. I think this is a good thing to go. I think it was fine when we didn't have man lands. But now that we have a man land for every color, like this is just too much because now you can almost run nothing but man lands and just removal, right? It's really bad. I didn't like it. Legacy so far, historic, yada yada yada. So historic, memory lapse, too powerful. We know Teferi, time mage. Now, as we talked about this, let's get one thing straight. Time Raveler has been rebalanced and unbanned. So what does that mean? Well, if we actually take a look here and we click on this, it's going to take us to a page. It's going to talk about the Alchemy rebalancing for January 27th, which is also when the ban effects go in. So, for example, let's look at what they changed. So, first card we have here is we have the Archlich, 3 and 2 for a 5/5. It says when it enters the battlefield, if you haven't completed Tomb Annihilation, return it to your hand. Venture into the dungeon. When it attacks, create a 2/2 zombie token equal to the number of opponents you have. It removed the ability to sacrifice a creature, so not a real big deal there. Here's something real funny. Here's Assemble Parts. Here's a card that came out on um, Alchemy and it has been rebalanced because it was too good the way it was when they released it to begin with. It went from the ability now cost is black, black, and 1 from black and 3. So in other words, it says here, target creature card in your graveyard perpetually gains black, black, and 1. Exile this card from your graveyard, shuffle it into your library, create a black copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie edition, all other types. Activate only as a sorcery. So, way too good of a reanimator card. I don't know why they made it cheaper. Seems really bad. Um, Basically making it 4 mana to just reanimate. I really don't like this move. So here's another Alchemy card that's been rebalanced. So 4 mana. It was a 4/3. Uh, they've now made it a 4/4. I don't know why that's necessary to make it so powerful, but it is what it is because Wizard doesn't know what it's doing. Here's one that I thought was really unnecessary. Uh, so they lowered the mana cost of the Closter Gargoyle. Now the original Gargoyle was a white and two. When it came into play, you venture in the dungeon. Everybody knows that. And as long as you completed the dungeon, it's a +3/+0. So basically, for 3 mana, you got a 3/3 flyer. Once you finish your dungeons, now it's went to a white and one, and went from an 0/4 to an 0/3. So it makes it easier to kill, but still cheaper to cast. So I don't think it really fixes anything here, other than making this thing a little bit. I mean, it's not real good because nobody's really playing this thing, but I mean, it is what it is. Next, we have Dungeon Descent. They decrease the mana cost and remove the. Oh, excuse me, I'm tired, guys. It says they decreased the mana cost and removed enter the battlefield tap. Costs 1 mana to activate from 4 mana. So basically, what this now says is it comes into play. You can tap for colorless, or for one, you can tap an untapped legendary creature you control to venture into the dungeon as sorcery. As soon as it comes into play, this does not seem like a good idea to me, unless they're just trying to get people to use the whole dungeon theme. This really seems what they'd be pushing here. So the next rebalance is Eliwick Tumblestrum, decrease the activated ability cost. The third planeswalker ability is now -6 from 7. I don't think it really changes too much. Nobody's playing this card. So this I think is a bit much. Fate's Reversal, they lower the cost on it. Does the exact same thing. Return up to one target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, venture into the dungeon, but instead of 2, now it costs 1. That's way too powerful to get to venture in the dungeon for 1 black plus get a card back. That for me. That's a bit much. Next here we have Find the Path rules adjustment. It says now adds 2 mana of any one color, uh, where it used to add just 2 green. So that makes this card way better than it was, just because of the mana fixing. So I don't know what the point is of that, unless they're trying to make ramp decks better, which I don't think anybody wants that to really happen. So we have Puppet Riser here. The only thing that's changed on this is it went from a 3/4. It went to a 3/4 from a 3/3. Um, I mean, whatever. Next, Precipitous Drop has been altered. It is now a black and one instead of a black and two colorless. Not like this thing's been running around causing all kinds of havoc or anything. So maybe once again, just trying to get people to play the cards. This one, not a fan. Triumphant Adventurer, black and one for a 1/1 that has Death Touch. When it swings, it gets first strike, so nothing can kill it unless you double block it. And whenever you attack with it, it ventures in the dungeon. Now it's went from a 1/1 to a 2/1, so now you got to block it with 3 things to kill it, if it's coming in on you. Not a fan. I don't think that was really necessary with all the abilities it has stacked on it already. So, whatever. Alright, so now we're going to get to something else. We have Divide by Zeros back. This time, you only get to learn if the spell or permanent with mana value 4 or less is bounced to the opponent's hand. I still don't think this fixes anything. Only because, um, I mean, a 3 mana bounce spell is fine. It still does what it needs to do. And honestly, I've never normally divided by 0 anything that was 4 or bigger, without already being in some really bad shape. So I really don't think this is going to fix a whole lot of things. People are still going to play the heck out of this card. So next we have the Fearsome Whelp, which if you guys have been playing in Alchemy, know this is the scourge of everyone's existence. It now triggers on upkeep from the instep, and then it gains haste. So the best thing about this is now that it does an upkeep, it actually gives you a chance to untap and kill this damn thing. Because once it starts making all your stuff cost cheaper, this thing just gets out of hand in the dragon deck, which won a lot of alchemy stuff, and this thing was really busted. They needed to make some kind of change. So I'm glad they made this change, although I almost don't know if it's good enough. Only because, yeah, you get 1 turn, but I mean, maybe it's good enough. We'll have to wait and see. Just don't like this card. I think it should cost more. Alright, Hull Breaker rules adjustment. So basically, it's good old Hull Breacher just like you've always wanted, except now it can be countered. So that's nice, because this thing was just horrific to try to deal with late game. I don't know why they thought a 7 mana for a 7/8 that couldn't be countered was a good idea, plus with all the extra text on it. So thank God they've changed that. We have also changed the Inquisitor Captain rules adjustment. They added if you cast it and to the inner battlefield ability. So basically now It's still a 3 white and 3 for a 3/3 with vigilance, but when the captain enters the battlefield, if you cast it and there are 20 or more creature cards with mana value 3 or less among cards in your graveyard, hand, and or library, you get to seek 2 creature cards with mana values 3 or less, put them onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. So basically, this is a collective company in white for creatures with legs. Big legs. So this is redonkulous. Um, this is just going to make a collective company deck that's green-white just absurd. Because once again, it says when it enters the battlefield, if you have 20 or more creature cards with mana values 3 or less among cards in your graveyard, hand, or library. So as long as you play 20, this thing's always going to go grab them. Well, I mean, technically, you play 4 of these, you got to have 20, so you got to have 24 creatures. But still, does it matter? Like, no, it doesn't. So, like, you literally can play stuff that's creatures that flips into lands, so you can always have lands. And anyway, point being, not cool. Um, I don't like having collective company with that's a 3/3 body attached to it. Just man, I don't know what they're thinking. They're really turning Arena into something horrific and not magic like in any way, shape, or form. Next here we have Lear. It says added during your turn to the flashback ability. So um, I mean, I don't think that's gonna fix a whole lot of things. Uh, it does stop a little bit of them bouncing it to their hand on the off turn is trying to protect it, but it's all said and done. I just don't think that's good enough. This thing's still going to be a problem for anybody who runs into it. But with a lot of that bounce stuff being gone, this is going to be less of a problem. So we'll see if it's actually okay. Next here we have Sanguine Brushstroke. So if you're playing Alchemy, they removed life gain from sacrificing blood token triggers. I don't know how it fixes anything. I don't think it's so much about gaining life. I think it's really about how much your opponent loses. So, I mean, that's my spiel. I mean, you want to gain life? Sure, gain life. Just stop having your opponent lose life. I just don't think that's cool. So, next here we have Talonray's Tyrant, the dragon everybody loves to play. Notice you've seen the Whelp before, which is why this thing is a problem. It added non-basic as a targeting restriction. About time. This thing just coming in as a Stone Rain with 4/4 flying legs was a catastrophe in Alchemy. Um, One of these days, if you guys really want, I'll do an Alchemy video about how some of the cards and deck archetypes are busted. But I'm just here to tell you, if you're going to play Alchemy, you might as well be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something else because the cards are way overpowered and nothing you're ever probably going to see in a real Magic tournament format because it's just ridiculous. They're really dividing up the difference between Alchemy or Arena Magic and real paper Magic. They're making a fine line and going two different ways. And you can clearly see that with the kind of these cards that they're coming out with here that they're now trying to fix because people just don't like the formats. It's way over the top. All right, and the one you guys have been waiting for, how do they fix Teferi? That's right. He now costs 4 mana, and has 5 starting loyalty instead of 4. And the static ability becomes your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So he's been nerfed. Because this basically means your opponent can still do all the things that they love. Uh, Cascade and all that stuff on their turns. They just can't cast spells during your turn, which was what they couldn't do before anyway, except it also took away Cascade and Instance and anything else they wanted to do with their free time when they were actually trying to play a game of Magic. So, uh, this does fix Teferi, I think. He's still going to be an issue. 4 mana, put him in at 5 with having no special ability to power into other than just bounce and draw, and stopping him from neutering you on your turns, I think is great. So this is probably going to fix him, which means that he's now on an adequate power level to be playable in the format, which means that no one will play him because he's not the Teferi he was, which was busted. So there you have it, guys. That's how Alchemy is changing Magic. I mean, Arena, because nobody would want to play with these cards in real Magic because it's just ridiculous. Um, so, as always, guys, thanks a lot for your time. I do appreciate it. And as always, till next time, remember to be kind. And I hope to see you across from the game table. P.S. Spoilers start the 27th.